Welcome to our next leadership tip, where we discuss some of the most pressing issues you will face as a leader of men in your church and your community. Dean, so here we are today talking about men and men's ministry, and we are approaching to what it seems to be a new season for a lot of us post-COVID. I'm sure a lot of men's ministry leaders right now are probably anxious to what's going to happen as they move ahead for the future. So in light of that, as we face this new normal, so what can we say to practically encourage and help leaders to men as they move forward? So what are some of the practical things you could tell them?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mauricio. There's so much excitement, anticipation for what will be a new ministry season, and it's been such a long time that we've been in these lockdowns, and so I know there are a lot of guys that are just anxious to get going. I think the first thing I would say, and this is very obvious, but I think it's really important, is that we, number one, discern, and I'll alliterate these, but it's a little bit of a curse. Uh, I think we need to take time actually to pray and ask God what he wants for the next ministry season. And maybe even invite key leaders that are around you to pray with you. James 1:5 says that if we lack wisdom, to ask God and he will give it liberally. So that invitation is open to all of us. And one of my favorite verses is Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Trust the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And so in the next season, as we think about what we should do, I think the first piece is actually pull it right back to ground zero and say, God, what do you want me to do? And what should we do for you?
Yeah, that's great, Dean. I think there's so many things that can come out of that, right? Like I think it talks about us submitting to the Lord, us being humble before God and to what he wants and not what we want. I think as a leader to man, we have to have that approach. I can even think about, for example, like engaging with your pastor and kind of aligning, your vision for your man in your man's ministry with the vision of the church, and engaging the leadership of the church to pray for your man as well. I think that's a great piece of advice that's very practical, that you guys can get your team, your men's ministry team together and really spend time praying for each man in your church. I think that's a great way to start planning the future. Absolutely. So what else would you tell them, Dean?
Yeah, so after a season of prayer, as it were, we use that term sometimes. I'd say discover your guys again, like get to know them. They've been in lockdown for a long time, and they've encountered a lot. And it'd be really great to know what's on their hearts, what's happening in their lives. Send them a survey, do a poll, ask questions, send them an email with some pointed questions, or get together over a coffee, or even, God forbid, another Zoom call. But ask them, how are you doing? What are your struggles? And how can we help? And so I think the next season needs to be actually not just making assumptions, but let's go and find out who our guys are again and how we can serve into what's happening in their lives.
Yeah, it's true. Like when I think about this past, like 15 months or so, and think about that, we can't make assumptions right now. I'm sure a lot of the guys, they kept in touch over the phone or maybe a Zoom. Maybe the church kept on going on some sort of kind of men's ministry, but we can really assume that we know how the guys are doing. We know how they are, especially in their walk with the Lord. I think it would be great. Yeah, it's a great point to kind of appoint guys to get reacquainted again, and and maybe, who knows, other men, new men will show up that you have no idea, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very good point. And so in addition of praying, in addition of getting to know your man, being acquainted to them, so what else, as a last point, like what else would you tell your guys that they need?
Yeah, so my last D, it's probably because my name is Dean, so it's stuck with me. But I would say do something and begin to design your program. Like there's so many. I think a lot of guys feel incapacitated right now. They feel like stuck. What do we do? I remember a book by Miles McPherson. The title was simply Do Something. And I think we need just to start there. Let's plan to do something. We can't do everything, but we can do something. Plan on a worship service, plan on a social activity, plan an act of kindness to your community, a softball game, a barbecue. Do something to get some momentum, and then begin to design out your year, and consulting with your church leadership, talking to the guys in your group, and looking at your church calendar, you can begin to systematically design your year and what that could look like. And as we move out of the pandemic, it'll become clear for all of us what we can and can't do, and how we can do that. But I think if we could just start, and I think we got to expend that rocket fuel to get off the launch pad again as men's ministries, and just do something. But as we do something, to begin to look and begin to plan for the next things. And I believe as we pray, as we get to know our guys again, as we begin to move, I believe God's going to empower us and equip us to do what he wants us to do right in our local setting.
Yeah, I love the way you frame the kind of the progression of it, right? So you start first and foremost with prayer as your team, aligning with the church and the church leadership, getting to know your guys, and then just do something. Sometimes, man, they get so concerned about having a perfect plan that the perfect is the enemy of the good. That sometimes just do something, but keep the vision in mind of planning ahead and planning your year round. I think those are great and practical tips. And I think we also have some great event coming up, Dean, in September as well. Do you would like to talk a little bit about that, our event that we are planning in September?
Yeah, we're really excited. We have several virtual events that are happening this fall, and we're kicking it off with one in September. It's a leadership event. It's going to be for some of our network leaders, but any men's ministry leader that's out there that just wants to get to know how to do leadership better and see what's happening. We're going to have some great speakers and content, and really use the moment to equip us for the next new season.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. I am really excited what is lying ahead of us. And so I think this is great. And so I just want to maybe end this tip today, just remind you of those four things, right? Like discernment, prayer, engagement with leadership and wise people, get to know your man, plan to do something. Just do something. Don't wait for the perfection. Just do something together. And also, as you do this, plan for your year-round vision and plan for the ministry. So there you go. These are the tips of today. All right. Anything else you want to say, Dean?
Oh, thank you. It's been great.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, guys. God bless you guys. Talk to you guys next tip.